organic chemistry has a reputation of being a very difficult course on most campuses. So why is organic chemistry so difficult to study for most undergraduate students? The first reason organic chemistry is so difficult is organic chemistry covers new material. Right? If you think about the chemistry you've been studying, maybe you started studying chemistry in junior high, right? And you covered some material. And then maybe you went to high school chemistry 1 and you covered mostly the same material in a little depth, maybe went a little farther, right? Then maybe you took chemistry 2 and you covered that same material in a little more depth. And then you took general chemistry and you covered that same material in more depth, right? So for some students, they've covered the same material 4 times, really going over the same ground over and over and over again, right? Maybe, right, we got increasing mathematical complexity, right, as we went along, right? Because as we learned new math from junior high to college, we could incorporate those mathematical principles into our chemistry, right? Maybe we got then, as a result, some more complex problems to solve, right? But we were really going over the same material, right? When we get to organic chemistry, it's all new, right? We're moving on to a new area of chemistry, right? That is in-depth and all new. And so it is a transition in content that we have to adjust to, right? That is new. Another factor that makes organic chemistry difficult is that organic chemistry is a conceptual class, while general chemistry is mostly a mathematical class, right? What we find is many students treat general chemistry as a series of math puzzles to solve, right? Which is a fine way to go through. The problem is that often they overlook the concepts behind those, right? It just becomes a math class, right? Since organic chemistry is conceptual, right? Takes away the math that students used to support their general chemistry study, right? So the very tool that students relied on to make general chemistry manageable is taken away in organic chemistry. And so students have to adjust to a whole different kind of thinking and problem solving. Another factor that makes organic chemistry difficult is that organic chemistry expects you to remember and use concepts from general chemistry. Now, one, right, since so much of students' previous experience in chemistry kept covering the same material, students very rarely had to remember a lot from previous years because it was going to be covered again, maybe in more depth, but it was going to be covered again. In organic chemistry, we're moving on to a new place. But in that process, there are going to be times, right, when we need concepts from our general chemistry that will be important to understanding parts of organic chemistry. Now remember, right, a lot of students treat general chemistry as a mathematical class, not a conceptual class. So if a student is coming out of general chemistry having been successful mathematically but is conceptually weak, right? A good general chemistry student who's been surviving on their math may struggle in translating the concepts that they need from general chemistry into organic chemistry. And so that sometimes creates difficulty for students who were good general chemistry students because they could manage the mathematical problem solving. But if they were conceptually weak, they may struggle relating that to the new content of organic chemistry. Another factor is that organic chemistry has a unique vocabulary that we didn't use in general chemistry. And it is important to learn that vocabulary because those are the best words to use to describe the concepts that we're talking about. And so we will talk about things like nucleophiles, electrophiles, leaving groups, attack in a reaction, elimination, right? The other thing is that organic chemists like to give credit to the scientists that discovered reactions, right? So we'll talk about Grignard and Swern and Diels-Alder and Suzuki, right? And so we have to learn, right, those names associated with particular reactions, right? So there's considerable effort, right, learning vocabulary in organic chemistry. And again, right, after 3 or 4 times through in general chemistry, we've become used to the vocabulary in general chemistry, right? But organic chemistry, we've got to change our vocabulary, and that takes work and practice. The last and most important factor that makes organic chemistry difficult is that organic chemistry is a truly comprehensive course over the course of 2 semesters, right? Every topic we learn will depend on something we learned before. Okay? Everything we learned in chapter 2 we will still be using as we study chapter 18. Right? And each exam, just by the nature of what I just said, is comprehensive. over all material covered from the beginning of organic 1, right? So there's not a place where you can have a bad few weeks and not learn something, right? And then expect to, oh, well, in the next section I'll do better, because the next section will depend on things that you missed in that bad few weeks, right? Right? We've got to, we continue to build, right? It is a building science, and that includes not just content, but remember also language, right? And so each exam forces you to look all the way back to the beginning, right? And understand everything as a comprehensive whole, right? WHOLE, right? We hope there are no comprehensive holes, HOLE, right? So the problem with organic chemistry is, because of this, it constantly builds. And if you fall behind, then for the next section, you've got to learn, right? You got to learn the last stuff before you can learn the new stuff, which means now you've got to do twice the work. And so it is very easy for organic chemistry to be like that cartoon snowball, right? Where you're here, right? And the snowball is rushing down the hill, right? If you are not prepared, you can get overwhelmed and run over by that snowball, okay? So organic chemistry rewards consistency, right? If you are consistent in doing these things, your snowball will be very tiny and you will be able to handle it. But if you let the snowball get bigger and bigger and bigger, organic chemistry can be overwhelming. And that's where students struggle. Okay?